Welcome back. Well, yes, well, we'll still keep tabs and we're taking a look at what has been done in the last 365 days and perhaps what they also have ahead of them. We're joined this morning by the Honourable Minister of the Environment, Hajia Amina Mohammed. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yes, indeed, it's very important for us to have a good environment, first and foremost, because, I mean, without that, I don't know how they can move on to achieve other things. And I also looked through the manifesto of the party. They got quite a lot here about what they set out to achieve on the environment. Maybe we should start by asking, in the last 1 year, what has been done?
I think the first thing we've done is take stock. We came into this administration when we had a number of global historic agreements, the Sustainable Development Goals, which bring in a concept of environment, economy, and the social sector. We also had a financing agreement that put environment too at the center of financing. And then finally, we had the Paris Agreement that said, right, climate change is real, and these are the things that we can do about it. So taking stock of what we got, what we inherited, which was not so good, and then having a new narrative that said, what does environment do apart from Sanitation Day? Because that's really basically how Nigerians connect with the environment, is our Sanitation Day. So looking at how we empower people, because it's important to the change agenda that this is about the economy and jobs, and so everything that we do needs to be translated into jobs. If we're greening the economy, creating more jobs in industry, then who is it for? Young people, and engaging them. The second was really to take climate action. Stop talking about climate change because we know the science behind it. What actions will we take at the desert with the desertification? What will we take with the massive deforestation that is happening in the country? How will we deal with the coastal issues of erosion? What will we do in taking those climate actions? Gas flaring, for instance, that creates so much emission. And then finally, protecting the environment. And that really goes to the ecosystems, it goes to pollution, industrial and oil. It also looks at erosion. So a lot of, what connects man and the planet together. And I think that's the new narrative for us. We've laid that out. There are some actions that we've been able to take already. The first is to try to live up to some of the promises. One of them, of course, is the CleanUp in Ogoni land. That's in the wider context of the Niger Delta pollution challenges. We've also repositioned and almost finished now the Great Green Wall so that we see how that works. So the President's thrust on trying to get the Lake Chad recharged, making the connection that in fact environment in every sense of the way has this role to play with the conflicts that we have in our country in particular. If we look at the South-South, we're dealing with the criminal activities and environment currently. If we look at the land issues, we're looking at herdsmen and farmers. If we go up to the north, it's exacerbated by the desert and what has happened to loss of livelihoods in Lake Chad, you have Boko Haram. So again, understanding the role that we play and making sure that we can be part of the solution to the root cause of most of this.
If we could pick up with the cleanup, the Ogoni CleanUp, because, I mean, we did speak to River State Governor. At the time, he didn't have much information in terms of what was going to happen. What is the latest plan about that?
Well, we've been working on this for a while. The President started by making that campaign promise. He's delivering on that. He reiterated this at the G7 meeting. And so what we've done over the last 6 to 7 months that we've been in the Cabinet is to go back to the stakeholders and to work in River State, in Ogoni land, where we left off, what do we have, what are their aspirations, expectations of what is going to be a long-term investment, speak to the other stakeholders in the oil industry, in the private sector, in the 3 tiers of government, to say if we're going to launch cleaning up the Niger Delta, starting at the entry point being Ogoni, and the UNEP report that was produced for that is only the very beginning. And cleaning up's not going to be the issue. It's how we stay clean after the cleanup. Technologies are available, whether we're going to deal with the soil, or we're going to deal with the air and the gas flaring, or we're going to be dealing with the water, which is so contaminated. So, I think there is a broad knowledge of what is going to happen. We will launch, by God's grace, on Thursday. The President will do that. We've already put in place a number of ad hoc committees to begin to talk to the communities and change the mindset, because this is about us, a collective responsibility to keep that promise alive. We can deliver on it, but how do you keep it alive at the local level? Local governments, state governments, communities, our young people, producing alternatives, to say that, this is not the way to go, breaking the pipelines and repolluting. The people that have the worst to benefit from that are those that are resident there. So I think we have to, finding those specific alternatives, let me say, because I think, I certainly spent the last few days in Ogoni land, and we can clean up the fish ponds that are polluted, we can clean up the soil, but we've got to have buy-in from the community to want to protect their environment and to see good come out of it.
It's been said that it will take about 25 years to have the lands completely cleaned up, but you keep using the term we need to do this, we have to do this, technology is available. How exactly would that work? What kind of technologies would we be looking at to employ so that we can have this? Because I'm sure it's possible to have it done in less than 25 years. There's a possibility.
No, you have no idea. This is 50 years of crime in an area, to land and to people and to livelihoods. So you're not going to fix it in a few years, no matter what technology you have. You have massive areas of land, and remember I said Ogoni land is going to be our starting point. The rest of the Niger Delta is also polluted in heavy, heavy ways, perhaps even more so than Ogoni land. Even though there has been no production over the last 20 years, there are still the illegal activities that again refuel the pollution. So we talk about technology that is available internationally, that comes back into this country. So we will be talking about our partners, but there's a strong training component. So we build that technological base in our country, providing for the Center of Excellence, providing for the laboratory that would look at soils and treat them. Today there are different ways of the remedial and restoration of soil that you can use. Some of it is microbial, others are thermal. So there are different ways of doing it, and I think this is what we want to do. First of all, bring the partners, and I can tell you we've had thousands of applications to come and help us do this, but also build the capacity in Nigeria so that we can do this over time. It certainly won't stop. It's not like you've drawn a line and pollution is not going to happen and then you can clean up.
Okay, sorry, Sulaiman. The other bit that some people think about is swamp forests. Yeah. The swamps could also help to clean up the environment. Then also working with the tertiary institutions and their geological department, are you employing their wealth of knowledge as well, even as you move ahead? We
will be. Absolutely. Science is critical in this, and science is evolving every day. So we want cutting edge. We want the gold standard for the Niger Delta. And definitely when we look at restoring our ecosystems, that's going to be a big part of it. Even the mangroves that we so see destroyed, the replanting of mangroves, provided you can find a way of cleaning up and planting, is such an easy thing to do. They're probably the easiest of plants to put back in. It not only helps us with the pollution, but also the coastal erosion that we're facing from rising sea levels and climate change. So catching the tertiary institutions, again, twinning them with the expertise across the continent, across the world, making sure we get the very best. But I'd say catching them young as well. I think a lot of what matters to us is that how can we get into schools and children be sort of brought up with the knowledge that there is a collective responsibility to take care of the environment.
In fact, I'm looking at the partnership you talked about, and this time let's talk about the community, the people who live in the community. If you really want to start off something that is not a one-off program that will take some amount of years, meaning some unborn children will come and meet this process going on, and some will grow up to meet the process still ongoing. There must be some kind of buy-in into this whole idea of not continuing with such a kind of practice that will further deprive them of a better environment. Have you, I'm talking about the government now, has the government been speaking with community leaders, community liaison officers, traditional rulers, the women, the children, because we've seen so many people destroyed by pollution in that environment. We've seen pictures, we've seen videos of people who have lost their skin, who really can't feed, can't drink water. So how can these people be put side by side with this initiative so that they know that this is serious business?
Well, it's serious business, and we're making sure that not only are we not going to continue with the prescriptions of the past, because that really is no good coming from up on high down to the community, and we're not putting them at the side, we're putting them dead center. They're an integral part of this. If we don't understand what their issues are, and possibly some of the solutions that they're finding, they live in this every single day. It's shocking that is what they see as their norm. And to go down there and for you to drink water or to eat the food there, there's oil in that food, it's toxic. And you know, unless we had not experienced that, we would have just said, well, you know, we'll get to this in another 6 months. Another 6 months of toxicity in your life, it's not possible. So we have been speaking to traditional rulers, we have been speaking to women, we have been speaking to young people and other stakeholders who have been in this struggle for years. It's not enough, and so we've put together an ad hoc committee to find better ways to get to everyone, because no matter what you say, someone will say you didn't talk to me. And at the end of the day, we don't want to leave anyone behind. So representation will be important. And I think that this is where government will be asking, we really need you to be clear about representation. There's a lot of trust deficit between government and communities. But there's trust deficit between the people and their representatives, even at the local level.
What exactly